everybody. I'm Andrew.
I'm Joe. Welcome to Joe and Andrew's Education Adventures.
And today we're being joined by Andrea Brown, who is a math teacher and does a lot of other things at our campus. Thank you, Andrea, for joining us.
I am happy to be here. Thanks for asking me.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what your official role is here at Paloma?
Officially, I am a math teacher. I also am the advisor to the cooking club. We founded a cooking club this year.
Nice.
I teach college and career.
Now, what grade is in college and career usually? Is that still freshman?
It's all freshmen.
And what math class are you teaching?
Currently, I'm teaching algebra and geometry, the restart classes.
Okay. So you have mostly freshmen, sophomores.
Mostly.
Nice. Yeah,
okay.
Which is similar to me. I have just about all freshmen this year, a few sprinkled in. It's been I'm curious what their experience will be next year when they come actually on campus for the first time. So.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, how are we going to take some A-cultured kids and get them in Wildcat culture?
Yeah.
Two classes, right? We've got to get 2 classes worth. And even our seniors are going to have not been on campus for a year and a half. It's going to feel like it's going to be an interesting year for sure.
And you're going to have juniors that barely figured out their first semester of high school and had that huge lap as juniors.
Right.
It's going to be significant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much.
So we have this huge challenge and this huge opportunity maybe to reset some of the cultural things on our campus. So we'll see how that looks and goes.
Right.
Looking at college and career foundations, what's something that you guys have done in this year that you're like, that's actually worked out to be a pretty cool lesson? Anything?
We've started a little more assertively in the financial literacy. I've gotten some excellent feedback from the kids because I do like to get feedback. I send out surveys. I want to know if something's relevant to them, particularly in distance learning. Is it cumbersome? Is it easy to navigate? Is there something on your side that I don't understand on my side? And the feedback that I got back from the discussions was that they're enjoying learning about budgeting and saving. And gosh, you mean I need to have a social security card when I apply for a job? And I should think about the questions they're going to ask me and have a couple of references. I better have people that I can use as references. Perhaps I should start treating these adults and reflecting myself in another way. They're starting to explore. So just in general, that's been that content area has been refreshing.
Now, do you get questions about the Robinhood app or any? I talked to some teenagers, and man, they are so interested in the stock market and trying to invest through these new apps because it's almost like a video game to them. Are you getting questions like that?
I haven't gotten questions like that. No, I know, especially with the publicizing of what happened with some of the millennials thwarting the market this year.
Right.
Quarantine. Yeah, they're definitely interested, but I haven't heard too much.
Okay.
My group is not too talkative right now.
That's fair. Same with mine.
All.
Yeah.
All groups.
Yeah, it's been tough. Speaking of, I always feel for you guys as math teachers, both of you, in that there sometimes can be real intense frustration that kids express in those classes, it seems like. And I'm just wondering how that's been after almost a whole year, well, over a year if you count last year, of doing this distance. What has been some of that extra challenge in math? Has there been some silver linings?
I mean, for me, since this began, since the onset, I really tried to take the mindset of what are the opportunities here? Mm-hmm. What are the silver linings? And I think there's a lot. Mm-hmm. There's been horrible atrocity, horrible loss, horrible, circumstances for so many. But there are a lot of things I think we can take forward. I've actually been running a digital classroom for, 7 years now.
Oh, wow.
So for me, that part wasn't, I've been on Google Classroom that long. I've also been integrating a flipped classroom in some capacity since 2013.
Great.
So that stuff was not fundamentally, I didn't have to adjust too much there. Maybe that is one of the silver linings in when I'm dealing with my students is whenever I don't learn online. I say, oh, okay, well, let's have a conversation about what that means because I've been doing this for 7 years and this is how I present the material, whether we're in person or online. So let's talk about what about that isn't working for you. Well, I don't understand it Well, did you pause it, rewind, and try it again? It's better than being in class. I mean, you can pause it, rewind, look at it again. You can reference it. I give additional so I kind of go through the process of what is beneficial to them. In my experience, that part isn't the motivation factor.
Yeah.
That's the fatigue from being sedentary on the screen. And I try to mix that up by the way I execute my class. But I really feel like that's the biggest challenge in all of this.
I agree 100%. It's the motivation and fatigue factor. I found like I pre-recorded all of my lessons and I do them live on synchronous days, but asynchronous, they can still watch them again. That's been cool. A lot of students are like pre-taking the notes. They're coming in and they've already listened to it once. So that's been cool. Plan to keep that rolling. But that frustration thing that I haven't heard, there hasn't been a huge amount of like voice frustration, but I think because they just hide behind the black box and we invite them in, you know, on the asynchronous days, like come in, and when students come in, it's like cool because you get like a lot of one-on-one help if they want it, but it's hard to get them to come in. Yeah, I had a student accidentally unmute their microphone, and I was like, "Oh, real human voice? What? And they're like, "Oh no, that was an accident." Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Andrea, you're in the math department. How long you been in our math department? And what's your favorite part?
Okay, well, this is my second year.
Okay.
So I haven't even had a full year on campus.
Oh.
But you know what? Silver lining again. Because we're all these little boxes on a screen, I'm actually connecting names and faces.
Right.
I wouldn't have that opportunity. Silver lining.
That's right. It's like a name tag. You're right. I hadn't thought of that. That's good.
Yeah. So it's like match. Figure out like who's who. Match guys up. Yeah. So, but my favorite part about the math department is truly I've been able to elevate what I'm doing in the way of a digital and flipped classroom because I can take risks and know that I can text, and I have like a 911 math support hotline with this group. Someone's going to get back to me, typically more than one, with alternate options for how I need to fix whatever crisis I'm having in Canvas, grading, Math, Excel. So it allows you to feel comfortable where you're not on an island where if I take that risk, I'm stuck. You're on an island with you picked your team that you want on that island. And they're there and they're like, how are we going to do this?
That just takes me back to, we had that one day back like early August or whatever when there was like 100 messages in like 3 minutes or something. Like it was insane. It was bad news, man. It was like, please stop. I have a limit, even though I'm unlimited on my messaging. Like I'm limited.
So you guys had like a massive math department group chat, and
yeah, it's been a good camaraderie for our group for sure. Okay, so I wanted to ask you because you're like new high school teacher, and I know you only had like 9 months of high school teaching like in the classroom, but you also taught middle school for a pretty good amount of time. So like compare and contrast, and I know you're dealing with like 7th, 8th graders versus probably mostly freshmen, but what do you got?
Herding cats and a spectrum of an actual young adult where you can at least see this transition back and forth. Sure, they ebb and flow, and their processes are not entirely there, right, for mitigating emotions and such. But their core is, I do see that they know that this is their last stop. So it's very different. But yeah, middle school is herding cats. I just had to swaddle them constantly.
Yeah. I like that word, swaddle. That's much more gentle than other words that other teachers would use. So you also started a cooking club. Like, talk us through how that, where that idea came from, how you got it rolling, where is that now? Just share the journey. Okay.
Well, I kind of cheated. Okay. Because, all good teaching comes from borrowing.
Yes.
We called it there the recipe club.
Oh.
And I had that for 5 years at the middle school that I taught at. It was a very positive experience there. So, I thought about that someday I'd want to do something with that here. So then I went in the fall, I was feeling really just the weight of the world for these kids were on me. My restarts, for a few weeks, I had 3 algebra restart classes and then down to 2. It was just watching what they were going through. And just when I called the families or the parents, the stories I was getting, it was a lot.
Yeah.
So, gosh, there must be a way. What do people connect over? Well, they connect over shared interests, food. It just kind of built
Mm-hmm.
into, well, this is a way we can give them connection. And then, there's like the little angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder. No good deed goes unpunished. And I was struggling with because I'm not tenured. I really wanted to keep my job. What if I do something and it goes horribly wrong?
Mm-hmm.
What if I expose something? Or, just anything could happen, right? Especially
Right.
when you're going into people's homes online. I don't know these kids.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot, right? So I just got a little, and I said, you know what? My intention is good. I'm just going to try and do it.
Awesome.
So there were a lot of people who just wanted to share ideas around food and cooking and what they were doing. And we're all home so much more. So a lot of them were learning how to fend for themselves or
Right.
make food more interesting.
Well, and one cool thing, like that this could like kind of merge into is like over the next couple of years, we should get a culinary arts
Right.
like part on our campus.
Without like playing favorites or whatever, but what is the most creative thing you've seen a student make in this cooking club so far?
Oh, okay. I have this one student who just is able to, the ideas and the presentation and the editing and the video. She made some sort of a bar, but everything she does is just very flexible, and she's able to talk about what she did and why. And I put too much of this, so I added that, and I had the. So she's very, very fluid in how she's treating this construct, and I like that. In fact, my whole what I'm presenting tonight, it's in the kitchen, half done. But I didn't have time to go to the grocery store, and I didn't have everything I needed. So the whole process is going to be about what I substituted and why, what I started out making, which was going to be mango salsa, and it's turned into like a corn and black bean salad salsa opportunity. That's what I'm going to call it.
Okay, the opportunity for salsa is always good.
Can anybody join the cooking club? Like, where where do they tune in? Like, how do they watch?
Okay, so we have a Canvas class, and there's a link. So we go live every Tuesday from 6 to 7.
I'm kind of guessing I know, but I shouldn't assume. We usually ask our guests, if you couldn't be a teacher, what would be your career? I'm hearing a culinary thing, but maybe I'm totally off and you have something other that you would really love to do.
Oh no, I've only been teaching, 8 years.
Okay.
Prior to that, I had a fabulous few years as a stay-at-home mom, like PTA member and volunteer-esque individual. Right. I was in sales and marketing. I kind of am constantly doing other things and building. What am I going to do next? And what else could I do? Something. I always just like to get paid to speak. Okay. I feel that sales and marketing was paid to speak. I feel like teaching is just paid to speak.
Sure.
I know we should not be doing the speaking, but ultimately, right?
It's communicating.
As long as it involves people, that's all I want to do.
Well, I just was remembering as you're talking about things you like to do and always doing different things. You hike a lot, right?
I do. So was it last weekend? About a week and a half ago, I was out at Dana Point with a friend. Like, oh, we're going to go hike to a cave. And I'm like, okay. I was basically rock climbing with waves crashing. And I was at one of these places where there was a rope with knots on it.
Yeah.
From a rock. And they're like, oh, this wasn't here last time. Tug, tug, tug. And I'm like, like, what's it attached to? And they went up first and I'm like, okay. Like, no, you're fine. Okay. And it was really, it was really fun. So I'll hike anywhere. I don't do anything too crazy.
What is something you're watching, listening, or reading that you find inspiring or you just enjoy?
Andrea Brown.
Okay.
If you're familiar.
No, I'm not. Are you, Joe?
So she's like one of the most watched TED Talks ever, and she's a theorist. She calls herself a research storyteller in vulnerability and shame.
Oh.
And just a lot about foundations of what helps people overcome circumstances, how people are motivated, how they interact with others. Just right now, it's resonating with me because I feel like we have a lot of work that we're going to need to do with our people. You know what we've been doing with my girls? So I have an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old. And so last week, we watched My Fair Lady.
Oh,
Audrey Hepburn.
yeah.
And I'm telling you, the amount of education and like exposure that I've given them, a huge part of watching that was just tearing apart the gender stereotypes, tearing apart the. It became very academic and less enjoyable than I had hoped. But it was a good movie, and it became an understanding of what was happening and how this woman was being classism and what was happening and why she couldn't aspire without the. Oh, it was
Yeah.
But that's good too.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah, well, it is, but then sometimes you're like, but I just wanted to be entertained tonight. And I find that with my kids too. They're like, we'll put on an old movie or something, and like all of a sudden it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Well, stereotypes are, whatever the different things are going on there, and it's like, oh yeah, you're right.
I love how you've had this kind of constant theme of like taking risks and really thinking about, okay, well, how can I make a difference here? Or, you know what? I think my intention's right. I'm going to do this here, whether it be for cooking, working with like this, students who have to take a math class again, or, other like going up that rope for the hike and stuff like that. That's really, I think, a healthy attitude. And you're so right about having to think through, okay, how do we help people who are going through really tough stuff? Because we've all been through tough stuff. And so it sounds like that's your motivation, but is there anything else that's motivating you as we're coming to the finish line of this school year?
Yeah, I mean, my motivation is people. Mm-hmm. When people ask me, what do you teach? In most contexts, I'm like, I teach people. I teach teens. But that's the thing is my motivation is to help people attain and have a pleasant experience and feel successful. There's incremental growth, and we're planting seeds today. If I don't see it, it might sprout tomorrow.
Well, I like, that just that idea of like stringing them along. It ties back to like that thing of the rope coming down the mountain with the knots in it. It's like it wasn't there in the past. But it's almost like if you think of it in teaching, like before, like you'd almost be like, no, you got to learn how to climb up this rock on your own. But now it's like, well, let's see if we can do some things that are going to help you still get to the top of the rock. Well, let's add some things that are going to help some of those students like be able to do that and break it up in a different way. And I know that's, I think, the challenge for all of us is because we still want to feel like when we issue our grades that they reflect student achievement.
Right.
But realizing this year has been something that's completely different. So how do I find that balance between those two of like, I don't want to give anything away. But I want to give so many opportunities that no kid at the end can go like, yeah, but you just wouldn't let me do well.
Andrea, thank you for sharing your story with us about how this year has gone, teaching math, how starting a new club to provide a place for students to connect and just go and be a chance to process through some of the tough stuff they've gone and have a chance to learn a new skill. And we just appreciate all that you're putting into our students at Paloma. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always good talking to you guys.
So everybody, thank you for watching and on this crazy adventure.
Let's keep learning.
Bye, guys.
During the basketball tournament, which Andrea did quite well in, right? How well did you do in our math department?
I won.
Whoa, yes. Nice.
You won it all. Yeah. I won the opportunity to buy lunch for somebody. That's how well I did. Hey, it isn't that the worst thing in the world. But
anything from, I really like Santa Rosa Plateau.
Right.
I mean, it's just beautiful because it reminds me of Little House on the Prairie, all the reruns I used to watch as a kid.
Yeah.
When you get out there, that's what it looks like. And it just brings me back to happiness, right?
Yeah.
But so what am I watching? Oh,
that's Amazon at my door.